So this is season 1, episode 7 of Queer as Folk, Smells Like Codependence. It was directed by David Wellington and written by Ron Cowan and Daniel Lippman. It first aired in the US on January 28th, 2001, and in Canada on February 19th, 2001. So we start off with Justin and Daphne entering a tattoo shop.
I can't believe you're actually doing this. For him.
It's not for him.
I mean, just because he's your boyfriend.
He's not my boyfriend. I don't do boyfriends.
And so I guess Justin is picking this up from Brian.
He's not your boyfriend. Brian doesn't do boyfriends.
You don't do boyfriends.
Look, I told you. I'm not your lover. I'm not your partner. I'm not even your friend.
So basically, Justin is learning from Brian. Is that good or bad? But I guess that this is what he thinks that he should be doing or thinks that he should be saying. I'm sure that if Brian offered to be his boyfriend in 1 second, he'd be like, okay, perfect. Yes, I do boyfriends now. And this is him. But I also think that more importantly, he's learned a little bit how to get Brian. We saw this in the last episode, 106. In that episode, he had started trying to play it cool.
Don't flatter yourself.
Aren't you gonna go over there?
Are you crazy? It's over there. In case you're interested.
A little Brian in the making, I guess. Justin is apparently getting his nipple pierced. And I wonder, is this why he needed a new fake ID? Because in the last episode, he couldn't pay for those friendship bracelets because he had to spend his money on getting a new fake ID, because I was wondering why he needed a new one. I don't know why he would need a new one for this, but maybe he needed a more believable one for this? I don't know. She asks left or right and he doesn't know. I feel like this is something that he really should have thought about before, like before you're about to get it. But she says that most guys like right, so that's what he's gonna go with.
Is this gonna hurt? Yeah, of course.
I kind of love that the two workers we see here are women. The person who's, piercing Justin, and there's a woman in the background tattooing someone. David and Michael are at the Liberty Diner.
Most practically every guy in here's been cruising it.
I should have warned you that clientele doesn't exactly come here for the 5-star cuisine.
And oh my god, all of a sudden there's narration.
Everybody's always wishing they had a boyfriend.
I was very shocked when I was rewatching this to do this. Did not see it coming, did not remember it happening. But apparently the narration's not done. We had it in episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and I thought, okay, well that's gonna be it. They didn't do it in episode 5, and they kind of just did a tiny one in episode 6, so it's gonna be done now. But I was wrong, again. Why do I keep forgetting that the narration went on for longer than it did? I keep thinking that it's over by now, but it's not. Also a little bit weird that it wasn't at the very beginning of the episode, but I guess that's because Michael wasn't in the first scene of the episode. It was Justin and Daphne. So the first scene that Michael was in was when they brought it in. Guess they're still trying to tell us that it's Michael's show. And then Michael brings up Brian again, because of course he does. I mean, what other topic of conversation is there when David's around, I guess,
You should see what it's like when Brian comes here.
David gives a look at that. Brian is obviously still a very sore subject between the two of them. And Michael's just still bringing up Brian all the time, just like in 105 on their first date.
Belongs to my friend Brian. He looks better. He can look good in anything. He even looks good in nothing. When he walks into Babylon, heads turn like police lights just to look at him. Everybody wants him. Besides, he's not even interested in me.
And then Michael says,
I'm so sorry. I promised I would not mention his name for 10 minutes.
oh my god, so he actually just kept mentioning Brian over and over again, where it got to the point where David was like, do you think we could go 10 minutes without a Brian mention? And Michael was like, oh, of course, definitely. And then he probably went, what? Like 10 seconds? Do we think he made it 10 seconds? I guess he's his best friend, so he's on his mind all the time. And when he's, mostly what you've been thinking about for the past 15 years, I guess it's hard to shake that. Think before you speak, Michael.
I'll settle for 5.
Okay, wow, so he really didn't even make it 5 minutes. I think he made it 2 minutes tops. Michael, do you want to keep Dr. David? Do you want to have a better lifestyle than the one you currently have right now?
That makes me want to come across the table and eat you like a dessert.
So David is really into Michael. Honestly, it must be really nice for Michael, for someone to be really into him. A nice change of pace. I mean, Ted was really into him, but he didn't seem to be into that, so.
What are you doing here?
Trying to pay my bills. You got a problem with that?
This is your,
Mother.
So Michael thought that it was Deb's night off, but honestly, even if it was Deb's night off, you have to think that Michael would know that her co-workers would tell her, as soon as she comes in, oh, Michael was here with some guy, they looked really cozy. Like, it's not gonna stay a secret. Not at the Liberty Diner. Apparently, Lorraine got food poisoning. I like how Michael gives her the, stop, kill it motion, and she returns it with, a dead serious look. She's like, yeah, okay, I'll stop. I love that. Michael is drinking a green Jones soda. I like the green ones. Deb says that her back is killing, and David tells her to lift from her knees, because as we know, and as he tells her, he is a chiropractor.
You're dating a doctor?
How long are you planning on hiding him from me?
I mean, Debbie has just hit the son-in-law jackpot here. Honestly, wouldn't it be really handy and really nice to date a chiropractor? Wouldn't that be perfect? I don't know, maybe you don't want them like working on you if you're dating them, but it seems like a pretty ideal situation to me. Yeah, that'd be nice. So anyways, Debbie says that David is coming over for dinner. Michael tries to give David an out by saying that he has a thing. David says that he would love to, so obviously David does not want to get out of this. And then, oh no, we're meeting Craig Taylor. His back is to us. I'm scared already. The way Jennifer says,
Craig?
oh boy, I'm not anxious to meet him. Remember, we've heard a few references to Craig Taylor, Justin's dad, and none of them paint a kind and loving picture.
Justin's not gay.
Oh, well, if you say he's not, then problem solved. And he starts to kind of explain away the signs.
Those new drawings you found, they're probably just an assignment for art class. And the underwear, I'm sure he just bought it for himself.
Okay, see? So I wasn't totally crazy. I think I said that, what was it, like 102 when Jennifer finds Brian's underwear that Justin has taken. And I'm like, well, he could have just bought that for himself. Gone out and bought himself some underwear. It's not unheard of, right? But she just went straight to, that's another man's underwear, my child's bed. So I am not crazy for thinking that. I am not on Craig Taylor's side. I want to make that abundantly clear. And then I just love her comeback.
It's not his size.
Okay, so maybe that's why Jennifer didn't assume that he bought it for himself, because she's like, why would he buy underwear that doesn't even fit him? Okay. Do we really think that Brian and Justin would be a different size underwear? I don't know.
Still, that's no reason to suspect that he's...
He told me himself.
So what? That doesn't mean anything.
Oh, well, that doesn't mean anything.
A lot of kids think that. They're confused, they're scared.
Okay, so Craig is just in some real big denial right here.
He's not confused. He's not scared. He knows.
You go, Jennifer. You tell him.
The same way we've always known.
No, I have not always known.
At least suspected.
No, you've suspected. He's not gay, he's...
What? Sensitive? Different? Artistic?
He's his own person. You know, not every kid is the quarterback on the football team.
You know what, Craig Taylor, you're right. Not every kid is the quarterback on the football team. Also, not every kid comes out to you and says, I am gay. So anyways, here I can see more evidence of why Justin was terrified of his parents, even his mom, finding out that he was gay. This situation right here. I mean, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come.
I think you better talk to him before he gets himself into trouble, before he exposes himself to God knows what. If he hasn't already.
You're saying he's doing things?
He's 17. How naive can you be?
So I guess that talk that Jennifer had with Debbie in 106 at the bar really made Jennifer think.
He's only 17.
How old were you the first time?
16.
15.
And then she took that wad of condoms at the end. I guess she doesn't feel comfortable, or at least doesn't think that Justin would feel very comfortable if she were to talk to him about that. So she thinks that Craig is a better option. I don't know. I feel like there were better options than him. I also get that he is her husband and he is the father of Justin, of her kids. So he's like, well, I can't keep this a secret forever. But also I just think that this talk could have come from a different source.
Hey, Justin!
He's not here. He says he's going to Daphne's, but I know he's not.
We're gonna make things worse, Jennifer.
The other night I found him in a gay bar.
So do we think that he's still not gay, Craig?
Well, I'm putting a stop to this right now.
There's more.
Oh, wonderful.
He's seeing someone.
So who is this kid? I'll call his parents.
He's not a kid, he's a man. His name is Brian Kinney.
Oh no, Jennifer, what have you unleashed? I guess that Craig's plan was to call the parents of this other boy so that they could put a stop to it. But I kind of also feel like this was and is a lot of parents' reactions. I'm sure lots of those don't quite escalate to the level that Craig Taylor's reaction escalates to later on. But this initial reaction, I feel like, is pretty common, or was pretty common at least. You know, oh, he's not gay. Call these boys parents. I'm sure those are words that have been said a lot. Also, I guess you have to remember that Jennifer has had a while to deal with this, like a really long time. You know, she even went to therapy with Justin, and Craig has just found out. I'm not making excuses for Craig, because he is the worst, like I've said many times. I'm sure that she's had a lot of those thoughts too.
Justin, how can you possibly know now who you are?
He still seems pretty angry, like really, really angry about it. Whereas Jennifer wasn't. She wasn't saying like, "Oh, you know, you're not gay," and in a mean or an angry way. She was just like, "How can you be sure?" Not a great thing to say either, but I just think there is some differences between the two reactions. Some big differences. Craig Taylor's got some anger issues. Anyways, so she says that his name is Brian Kinney, and then it cuts to him at Woody's, that he's playing pool.
I say if it walks like boyfriend, talks like a boyfriend, then it must be a boyfriend.
He's talking about David and Michael here. But is it a coincidence, the scene that this directly follows? I think not. Could also be, you know, talking about Brian and Justin. They were acting pretty coupley in 106. They've been seeing each other a lot. Also, we just had that scene where Daphne called Brian Justin's boyfriend, and Justin said, I don't do boyfriends. Obviously, it's just, you know, a general theme in this episode, hence smells like codependence.
I think it's great that Mikey's got a steady.
He's not a steady. We went out twice.
That's not true, Michael. There was the first date in 105, and then 106, which I'm pretty sure they actually went on 3 dates in 106. The art show, they went to Woody's, that date at the beginning of the episode. I mean, they didn't actually go on the date and they didn't make it out of the apartment. Okay, being conservative, we're at 3. And they went to Babylon, and they went to the diner in this episode. I mean, it seems like more than 2, and these are just the ones we've seen. Emmett tells Michael to watch out for the warning signs that they're in a relationship.
Like when he brings you flowers. Or invites you away for a romantic weekend in the country. When you meet your mother and she invites him over for dinner.
And Justin catches it quite expertly.
Guess what I got today?
Every piece of trash has something stuck through their ear, their nose, or their belly button, their cock. What makes you think I'm even remotely interested that you have a ring through your tip?
Oh, Brian. Oh, Justin. Every time that Justin goes up to Brian to tell him, I get this really sinking, oh no, this is not going to be good feeling. Kindness is a virtue, Brian. I think I know that patience is. Michael all of a sudden says after this,
It's late. I got work.
so is Michael jealous about Justin here? Does he feel bad for Justin here? Is he just nervous about David becoming a boyfriend? He did just do that pool ball thing to show that he was nervous. But I don't think it was a coincidence what it came directly after. I don't know his motivations. He's got the script for 107. I'd love to see it.
Don't forget about this Friday.
What's this Friday?
You're too young to know.
Tell me.
Well, the way he says, tell me. Oh, it makes me so sad. Oh, and then it's Ted who takes pity on Justin, and he tells him, oh, Teddy.
Just some heathen ritual called Studs and Suds.
And then Emmett explains it. During this, Brian and Michael exchange a look, and what is it? Is Michael upset that everyone thinks he's in a relationship? Is Michael actually mad about how Brian's treating Justin? Michael mad that Brian brought up Studs and Suds? Brian says that Michael better be there, so you know that that means that he won't, because this is a television show. And the second someone says, you better be there, they will not be.
Does Michael have a boyfriend?
That's none of your business.
I just want to know.
Don't stick your tit in where it doesn't belong.
Okay, so I would say that this is kind of mean, but the fact that the scene following this is the two of them having sex, I'd see it as a little bit more playful, and obviously Brian was a lot more excited about that nipple ring than he acted like he was. Part of it was trying to, you know, keep up his appearance of who he is, who Brian Kinney is in front of his friends and adoring fans. I also love how Justin is trying to be a part of the gang, he's all interested in their lives, and Craig Taylor enters Justin's room, and that's kind of intercut with Justin and Brian having sex in the loft. Craig is looking through Justin's stuff, he sees his sketches. We also see a picture of Justin and Brian, which was taken in the last episode at the art show, and it was taken by Daphne. You can see that Daphne took it in the, you know, behind the scenes video. First of all, let me say, you go, Daphne, taking those pictures that matter. She's got this camera going on taking pictures of the event, and she's like, oh, Justin's gonna want a picture of this. Justin's got it in his room. I wonder if the picture that they used for this was actually the picture that she took when they were filming the scene. Also, an extended version of this scene on the DVDs, in case you're interested. But then it's the next day, or another day. We're at Michael and Emmett's apartment. There's a knock at the door.
I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat.
I'm going to my mom's, remember?
Oh, right. Din with Doc. I forgot.
Nope, he did not forget at all. Obviously, the reason that he came at the exact time that the doctor was supposed to show up, or even a couple minutes before that, he wanted to mess with Dr. David and that situation.
What's this? Chocolate eclairs from the Big Q Bakery. I bought them for this.
Wow, it takes years of practice to develop technique like that.
One of my favorite things to happen in the show, this scene, it really takes the eclairs. Brian just sits down and deep throats an eclair. From the chewing and swallowing throughout this scene, it looks like he actually ate it. Like he didn't spit it out in a spit bucket. Also, do we think that he practiced that or that he just went for it? I mean the actor, I don't mean the character. Obviously, Brian has had a lot of experience with that, but I'm curious. Well, has he really had a lot of experience with that though? I've seen many people go down on Brian. I've never seen him go down on anyone ever. Anyways, love, love, love. Love this scene. Emmett's hilarious. Brian's hilarious. So either this is some more sabotaging of the night on Brian's part, or he just really, really, really loves Eclairs. I mean, who doesn't though? They're really good. Really want an Eclair now. Also, Emmett and Michael have a picture from the first night. When I say the first night, I mean the first night of the show, that first night at Babylon, taped up on their fridge. It looks like it's just Brian, Emmett, and Michael in the picture. Oh, poor Ted. Although it supports my those three were closer than the four of them theory, as evidenced by what happened in 104. You know, them not being super, super sad about Ted dying. And
Looks like it's just us, the Three Musketeers.
but don't you feel bad for Ted? We know that they had pictures of the four of them from that night, and yet the one that chose to put on their fridge was just Brian, Michael, and Emmett. I feel like it doesn't go with what we see of Emmett and Ted shortly, and even what we've seen so far. But anyways.
Look, I know you don't like him.
Who said I don't like him? And why do you give a fuck what I think?
I've been saying that for years.
Ooh, I mean, that's true. Okay, Brian seems honest to me here. I mean, obviously he is sabotaging hardcore also as well, but he seems honest. You know, obviously I know that he's there to mess with Michael and David's night. I think it's just him having fun, wanting him to keep living their fun life. He's like, you shouldn't care what I think, but while also knowing that Michael does care what he thinks, and he is greatly influenced by Brian in everything.
What matters is what you think. If you like him, that's all that's important.
So, you know, you're like, oh wow, he sounds really sincere. And then it's all undercut.
Even though he is quite a bit older than you and lives in a world you know nothing about. Shut up!
He's kind of sticking it to Emmett because he's looking at Emmett as he's saying this. And the look on Emmett's face, and Brian's just taking such joy in this.
Are you saying he's too good for me?
Nobody's too good for you, Mikey. You're better than anyone.
Because he happens to think I'm hot. You know, some people do.
You get it, Michael. You want Brian to think you're hot. And you also want Brian to tell you that you're hot.
Haven't I always told you that?
Yes, you have, Brian. In 106, for example.
You're just jealous because somebody finally thinks I'm hot or something.
You are hot or something. I've been telling you that since you were 14, but you won't believe me.
I also think that Brian is really picky for who he thinks Michael should be with, but then he also doesn't want to lose Michael, which I think is most of it. Brian then kisses Michael, and I love Brian's face when he hears the knock at the door.
I'll get it.
I love that Emmett is trying his best to keep Brian out of this, to make this whole David thing happen for Michael. He's a truly good friend, Emmett. Truly good friend. I love how Brian answers the door with,
Dave, buddy.
there's that power move again, calling him Dave. Though David doesn't seem shocked at all that Brian's there. I mean, he's not pleased about it, but he's definitely not shocked. I love how he just says,
We were just talking about you.
Really? Hi, Emmett.
Hi.
and Emmett's little, hi, like, I'm sorry, I tried. David enters with flowers in tow.
The second sign, flowers.
I love how Brian's just standing there behind with his arms up on the, I don't know, what do we call that, the entryway thing?
He's allergic to boyfriends bringing bouquets.
This moment also reminds me of 16 Right, 11 Left.
I've heard a lot about you.
I've heard a lot about you, too. 16 right, 11 left.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
Like, Brian's not lying here. He's just saying stuff out loud that is true and stuff that he shouldn't be saying. It's honest what he's saying, but he should not be saying it, and he knows that he shouldn't, and he's just doing that on purpose. I think this goes without saying, but it seems like Justin and Michael's no boyfriends thing comes from Brian, because we know they are both heavily influenced by him. David and Michael leaves, and Brian hands them the chocolate eclairs. And then Brian's face after they leave, I don't know, it almost seems like he's a little bit disappointed in himself. And you should be, girl, you should be real disappointed. Okay, so Brian is definitely messing with these two. I wonder if any of this is because he doesn't like Dr. David. I definitely think so. Brian doesn't want to lose Michael. He doesn't want him to leave their way of life, which strikes me as odd since he was so encouraging of this before. He was encouraging Michael to go on the date in 105, and then to give Dr. David another chance in 106. But ever since Michael shared the nipple story, he's not on Team David. Is it jealousy, or is it because that he liked the idea of Michael moving on and being with someone and all hung up on someone else, but he didn't really love the reality of it? I think he's also just really realizing here that he could lose his friend. You know, if there's one thing Brian doesn't like, it's change. Change is the worst, and it should never happen. We're at Justin's house.
You said you wouldn't tell. You promised.
Justin, I had no choice. I had to tell Daddy.
Daddy. Ugh.
When I saw you with this Brian.
You keep calling him this Brian. Like that's his name.
Such a mom thing to say. So it wasn't until that she saw Justin with a much older man that she was upset. Like, that's the part that she's not cool with.
When I saw you with Brian, his arms around you, kissing you. I couldn't believe it. Not for the reason you think. It's not right for a man his age to be touching you, to be having sex with you.
She's right, it's not.
Even though you may think you love him, I'm sure he doesn't love you.
That's not true.
He seems so genuine here. So Justin really does think that Brian loves, or well, probably not loves, but cares about him, even though he's told Daphne that he doesn't. So he's like telling people that, but really he's like, Brian cares about me. And I mean, you gotta believe what people show you, right?
He's an adult. It's illegal for an adult to have sex with a minor.
So the age of consent in Pennsylvania was and is 17, so it's not technically illegal. Although from my very minimal research, does look like that Brian could be charged with corruption of a minor, which includes a lot of things, but one of those things is having sex with a minor. So it's not statutory rape, but it could be this. Again, I'm not a lawyer though, so...
Honey, it's not your fault. We don't blame you. We understand this man enticed you.
He didn't entice me. I wanted him.
I mean, yeah, Justin was after it/him that night. He knew what he wanted and he went out and he got it. I mean, Brian certainly did entice him, like, in the loft and stuff beforehand, though. So I mentioned this in 101, I think, maybe. It's, you know, a little hard to see it as a 17-year-old and a 29-year-old, when in reality, it's a 23-year-old and a 31-year-old. So it's hard to see him as 17 when he's not 17. So that adds to it a lot.
And what about AIDS?
He wore a condom. I put it on him myself.
Oh, God! I'm calling the police.
Oh my God, Justin, unnecessarily stirring the pot is not necessary information. But oh my God, Craig's...
Oh, God! I'm calling the police.
Mission accomplished, Justin. I think that... I mean, what else did Justin think he was going to accomplish by saying that? So I guess good job, Justin. You got what you wanted. Outlandish reaction. But that comment is what makes Craig go, I'm calling the police. He wasn't talking about calling the police before, I mean outright, but now he is. Justin just kind of seems entertained by all of this and also a little tired. Jennifer says he's not calling the police.
He didn't molest me, and I'm not a child. I love him more than anything else in my life. It's all I want is to be with him.
He says that to Jennifer, not to Craig. Okay, so also Justin was playing it cool, as I said, and as we saw in the last episode and in this episode, but obviously he is all in. You know, this isn't in front of Brian, obviously, or in front of Daphne, or whatever. He's just trying to get it through to his mom that he loves Brian. He really, really, really cares about him, and he really wants to be with him. And those are his true feelings, obviously. I mean, good for Justin for, you know, being able to play cool and seeing that that's the best, probably, tactic for him right now. I also like that Justin is saying this to Jennifer because he's thinking, you know, she's my only ally here right now.
I don't ever want to hear you say that again. And you are not to see him.
I'm going to see him. I don't care what you say.
I don't think so. No, you're not, Justin. Hey, Justin!
Justin leaves and Jennifer looks very tired and upset. David is at dinner with Debbie and Vic and Michael at Debbie's house.
Like, will you two please leave him alone? Next he'll be asking what kind of car he drives and how much he makes.
I drive a Jag, and I'm comfortable.
Michael, if you don't marry this man immediately, I will.
Oh, I love Vic. I missed him. I think he was only gone for like one episode, but I really missed him. Wait, was he gone for 2 episodes?
It's like Lady and the Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp.
It's Michael's favorite movie.
When I was 9.
And then, oh my God, they reenact the Lady and the Tramp scene right in front of Debbie and Vic. I just... I mean, is this not like the weirdest thing ever? And after this, they look at each other like they're about to do it on the table, and Debbie's just really content to watch. That is your son, Debbie. That is your son. And then Vic kind of taps her, and he's like, yeah, let's go. So they leave. Thank God.
You want to see my old room?
I'd love to see your old room.
So they really were about to do it on the table. And they go to Michael's room to have sex. You just saw Debbie and Vic go upstairs.
Would you like to go away with me for the weekend?
Huh?
I got a cabin up in the woods.
To murder him, perhaps? Debbie yells.
Say yes, you little asshole, or I'll disown you.
Okay, so those walls are paper thin. And they just keep at it. They're like, you know, my mom's listening in. My uncle's probably listening in too. It's fine. Brian is giving out his phone number on the internet to some random person to hook up with. And then he gives his address to the guy. There's a knock at the door. Who is it? Who do we think it is? It's Michael. Well, my guess was either Michael or Lindsay with Gus in tow, so.
Actually, she and Vic were on their best behavior.
That's even scarier. Listen, you can't stay. I've got someone coming over in approximately 7.5 inches, so...
I mean, remember when Michael was about to have his date and you just showed up and wouldn't leave?
I'll see you tomorrow. At Studs and Suds.
Can't go.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
David invited me away with him.
Well, what do you know? Just like the boys said. Flowers, dinner at Mom's, and now an invitation to the country.
You're mad.
Why would I be mad? I mean, who wants to be on a crowded dance floor surrounded by naked men covered in soap suds when you can be breathing all that fresh country air?
To be honest, Brian isn't too upset. We see later that he is, but I guess right now he's pretending that he's not very upset about this. He's not trying to dissuade Michael from going, really. I don't know, maybe he is, I don't know. So maybe he really was a little bit disappointed in himself before and realized he was being a little bit pathetic. The phone rings again. Brian says that he must have gotten lost, his 7.5 inches guy. Oh wait, no, 10 inches guy? No, 10 inches guy. Enters the phone and then he just blurts out his address. And then he says,
I've got this new dildo. 9 inches long, 7 inches round. I'm gonna open up your hole with it and I'm gonna fuck you so hard your eyes roll back in your head.
and we see that it is Craig Taylor on the other end of the line. So Brian is obviously saying this for Michael's benefit, but also this is something that I really hate that happens in TV shows all the time. When someone answers the phone, assuming it's someone else, and then just starts saying whatever, and it ends up being the, complete wrong thing to say to that person. I get that in this situation, part of why he did that, like that, and said that was for Michael's benefit, and he was so distracted by all that and blah, 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 blah. I guess at least Brian knows that he messed up, or at least he finds out that he messed up, because the 10 inches guy calls him again.
Okay, that wasn't you.
But also, Brian doesn't seem to put those dots together later on in this episode, but hey, whatever, it's fine. Michael is calling into work because he's going away for the weekend with Dr. David. He says that his neck is acting up again, and he's going to see his chiropractor.
I'm entitled to a couple personal days.
Michael, you're entitled to a personal life.
What if I run out of things to say? What if I say some stupid remark and he says, why am I up here with this jerk? Or what if... Hey!
Just like how he was so nervous before his first date.
I just want him to like me.
He already does. He more than likes you. So you go, and you have a fabulous time, and bring us back some berries.
Yeah, that's not my berries.
Oh, they're such good friends. Love what we're seeing in Emmett here and in this episode. Just how good of a friend he is. We've definitely seen that before now, like when he took David onto the dance floor and, all that kind of stuff. But really, now we're just seeing how good of a friend he really is. And I love it. I also love Ted. And then when Ted says that David already likes him, he more than likes him. And then Emmett looks at Ted. I think Emmett's remembering that Ted likes/loves/ more Michael. And he's probably realizing right now how hard this must be on Ted. It's something that I think Michael has definitely forgotten, and even in this moment has not remembered. Like, it must be hard for Ted to see all of this. Michael dating someone. Also, he probably kind of wishes that it could be him. I like that Emmett seems to remember all of this, because I honestly forgot about it too. Brian is at Mel and Lindsay's place.
How much?
$2,000.
And he's writing a $2,000 check.
It would be so expensive having a kid.
Obviously, we didn't.
Can I tell you that I love you to death?
You and Melanie really are after my life insurance.
Remember when Melanie and Lindsay didn't want Brian's help financially? They didn't really want him involved.
I don't want you to worry about money, If you need anything.
No. We'll be all right. But thanks.
Feels like, oh, so long ago. I'm not mad that she's asking for money, and Brian isn't mad about it either. It is his kid and he wants to support him. It's just funny how quickly they've turned around on this. They're like, oh wow, kids do cost money. Oh shoot, where can we get some money? Brian's loaded. Lindsay asks if he's going to Studs and Suds with Michael.
Michael went to the country with the proctologist.
Chiropractor.
Whatever. I guarantee you, after 2 days, he'll wish he was back here with me in Babylon.
I wouldn't be so sure. He might actually like a change of scene. Not to mention someone who actually wants to be with him.
Okay, so Lindsay sees it too. Lindsay sees that Michael wants to be with Brian desperately. I just like that other people see this. I mean, we know Justin saw it too, but Michael is gonna like being around someone who actually wants to be with him for a change.
You can't imagine why two people would want to be together, can you?
The desire to fall asleep in front of Jay Leno and argue over whose turn it is to pick up the dry cleaning?
It's called not wanting to be alone, knowing that you're loved. Apparently a lot of us need that, including Michael. So promise me you won't fuck it up for him.
And then Brian just has this look like, ugh, fine. Okay, so see, he doesn't want Michael to settle down because he thinks, in his eyes, that's like the worst thing. And he especially doesn't want someone that he cares about as much as Michael to do that. Chris Hobbs is walking down a hallway into the locker room.
I couldn't see you. I forgot my contacts. Fag.
And he's not bullying here, he's just using that word really casually.
Don't you want to check out all the guys' dicks? Know how much you like that?
Seems like a risky move, Chris, given what Justin knows about you, about what the two of you did. And then Chris sees Justin's nipple ring.
Where'd you get that? Piercing parlor on Liberty Avenue.
Seemed unnecessary to say that it was on Liberty Avenue, kind of poking the bear a little bit, but I guess good for Justin for being honest, which is kind of undercut in a second, which we'll get to it.
You really are queer. Not.
Justin, I guess, doesn't want people to know that he's gay from what he says here, but as we've already covered, the whole school knows, or knew at one point, when he drove up in the first episode in that car. Him and Brian were real close, and there was that whole thing, and that kid made that comment.
You wanna suck me off? No, but I'll kick your tight little virgin ass so hard you won't sit down for a week.
Etc. But the whole school seems to have just collectively forgotten that this happened. So if we're just, we're pretending that that never happened, and he doesn't want anyone at school to know that he's gay, why would you say, I got it at a place on Liberty Avenue, aka the Gay Avenue? Like, that piece of information was not necessary, Justin. If you wanted to keep the secret, seems like a bad move.
So your fudge-packing friends can pull on it while they're butt-fucking you? How do you know so much about what faggots do unless you are one?
Ooh, good bird, Justin. Obviously, this guy, Chris Hobbs, is pretty closeted and taking it out on others. Wow, go Justin. Then a whole bunch of guys rush in to break it up and they pull them off each other. And then Justin spits out some blood onto Chris Hobbs. Okay, wow, what a moment. So, we all get the implication here. Obviously, Chris gets it too, but this is just such a tense moment. Michael and David arrive at the cabin. Apparently, David built most of this himself, so he's just a real jack of all trades, I guess.
When was the last time you were in the country?
We visited a dairy in the 3rd grade.
Wow, so has Michael really, not left Pittsburgh since then? No, I guess he's just not going to the country since then. Michael then sees a picture of David's ex-wife. He was married for 7 years. He has a son named Hank.
He's 12 now. He's living with his mom down in Oregon. I don't get to see him too much anymore.
Okay, so he was married for 7 years, then in a relationship with that guy for almost 6 years, as we learned.
So you weren't always gay?
No, I was always gay. Just didn't want to admit it. And being the overachiever that I am, I figured that if I worked hard enough, I could become anything I wanted, including straight. So I married Lori. And for a long time, we were happy. Built this place together. But eventually it became harder to deny who I really was, who I am. So I told her. After we split up, I promised myself that I would be honest with me, and that I would always be honest with anyone else that I loved. Which I guess is why I'm telling you.
Is David saying that he loves Michael right now? Dr. David moves fast, except on the first date. Let's not forget.
What are you doing?
He met Michael in 105. This is episode 107. And he basically just says that he loves him. And as far as Michael is concerned, they've been on 2 dates. So, we know there's been more than 2 dates. I just mean from Michael's point of view. David has had to have known that all those pictures were there. So I guess he was kind of treating this trip also as a way to tell Michael about his past. I guess he didn't want to scare him off before. It's Studs and Suds of Babylon. Lots of soap around and suds. I don't know, all I can think watching this scene is, wow, that must be really painful for your eyes. You can see some guys wearing, goggles and I can see why. Brian looks sad. He's just sitting there, fully clothed, jacket and all. Honestly, wouldn't even be there if I was wearing all of my clothes, including my jacket. And if I planned on keeping all my clothes on, I just wouldn't go. Ted is also beside him, fully clothed. Emmett is in his underwear.
You 2 wallflowers! Come on in! The suds are great!
He's having a lot of fun in the suds. He's doing it right, the other two are not.
You always seem to enjoy yourself when Michael's here. But I guess it's not as much fun scoring without your little audience of 1, is it?
Oh, good burn, Ted. because it's the truth, but also it's a good burn. It's a lot better when someone's there being like, Brian, I can't believe it. You're so cool. This was made super clear to us earlier when Brian was on the phone and he said all that stuff for Michael's benefit, his audience. We've also seen it before though, like in 103.
He's not. He can't. He can't.
And many other situations too. And Brian looks shaken here.
It is not enough to trick. Your best friend must also go home alone.
Fuck you. I haven't thought about Michael once tonight.
Hey, what do you know? Just like when he's here.
Oh, wow, you go, Ted. I like this confident Ted. It's nice. He obviously really got to Brian, and he hit the nail right on the head. Brian is visibly upset by this, and he's obviously only been thinking about Michael all night. I love when Ted says, just like when he's here. So everyone is aware of the dynamic between Michael and Brian, except for Michael, of course. Good job, Ted. I approve. And Ted's probably really glad to see Michael happy with David. I'm really glad. Well, you know, kind of glad. Even though he wants to be or wanted to be with Michael, because at least this is sticking it to Brian. Brian, who is the cause of Michael being miserable a lot of the time. Ted's also probably fed up with how easily impressed Michael is by Brian. And he's right. Michael is always thinking about Brian, but Brian's almost always busy thinking about other guys. Brian leaves Babylon, and Brian's got some soap on his sleeves, and this is obviously why you don't go in fully clothed to Studs and Suds.
We did it at the Bass a couple weeks ago.
I must have been very desperate.
Fuck you. Who the fuck do you think you are? Fuck you!
Brian is at a stoplight on an empty road. He changes a cassette tape, guys. Car then rams him from behind, and then pulls back and rams him again from a different angle this time.
What are you doing, you crazy fuck?
I guess we're being led to believe that this is the guy that was, you know, mad at Brian a few seconds ago outside of Babylon. That's definitely what he thinks. This guy that hit him, who we're gonna learn in a couple scenes was Craig, he hit him not once, twice. Like, he actually backed up and then hit him again. I get that he was mad, but this is crazy. Like, this is insane. He wanted to call the police on Brian, but sir, someone should be calling the police on you. Like, you could have killed him. Michael and David are having sex on a blanket in the woods or a meadow or something. It looks like they had a picnic.
So we can go away together again sometime. When was the last time you were in New York?
Like never.
London? Paris? The Amalfi Coast?
Try Atlantic City, 1983.
Paris. Interesting. So Michael never goes away, and he hasn't since 1983, and also the last time he went to the country was a dairy farm in the 3rd grade. Something that gets retconned later, perhaps?
There's a whole world outside Liberty Avenue. I'd like to show it to you if you'd let me. But first, we swim.
And then David starts running, naked, and looks like he's frolicking in the woods. Wings on a tree branch like he's Tarzan or something. And he runs off. Dr. David is very spry. And then Michael says he'll be right there and calls, of course, Brian. You know, because what else would he do? Even when he's there and he's really happy, he's still thinking about Brian, or, you know, Brian's on his mind. He wants to tell him about it, and I get part of that. You know, he's his best friend. Feels like something that could have waited, though. But I also get that he wants to brag. Brian is in bed. He's got a band-aid on his face and some bruising. So important to note about this scene. Brian doesn't volunteer any information about what happened. Doesn't even let on that anything happened.
So how was your weekend?
Daddy.
Yeah? How was Studs and Suds?
Lovely. Too bad you weren't there.
Okay, what's going on?
Nothing.
Fool me. Out with it.
But I guess Michael can tell, and makes him tell him. Brian even says,
Only if you promise you won't let it spoil your weekend.
What?
I was in an accident, that's all.
What kind of accident?
I wouldn't fuck this scumbag, so he rammed my Jeep. Twice.
Christ, are you okay?
I have a minor head wound and a concussion.
Oh my God.
Now, you promised you wouldn't let it spoil your weekend, so don't you even think about cutting your trip short and coming back here. You and Doc just enjoy your poke in the pines. Bye, Mikey.
I have to go back.
So I know that you can look at this scene 2 different ways. 1, Brian just said all of that so that Michael would cut his trip short and come back. 2, he really didn't want Michael to come back or feel like he had to. I think it's somewhere in between these two. He didn't let on about it at all before Michael, you know, got him to tell him. Specifically told him not to come back. You could definitely argue that Brian knew that what he was saying would make Michael want to come back. But here's the most important thing. Michael is his own person. Michael chose to come back. He could have decided to stay there with David, but he chose to come back. It's not all on Brian here. Sure, Brian was kind of baiting him to come back a bit, but even so, Michael isn't a helpless child, no matter how childlike he may seem at some points. He's an adult who can make his own decisions, so I feel like most of the blame is on him here. And also, if Brian hadn't told him what happened, you just know that Michael would have been really mad about that when he got home. Like, he would have been so mad that Brian didn't tell him about this when it happened. And like, they're best friends. Brian's supposed to not tell him that he was in a car accident. I just feel like in this scene they really want us to be like, oh, Brian, he's the devil. He got Michael to cut his trip short, but I don't see it that way. Michael's his own person, and they are best friends, and, you know. Craig Taylor is looking at his messed up car, so obviously we see here that he's the one who hit Brian.
Some asshole in a Jeep backed into me.
Did you get his information?
It was dark, honey. He drove off before I could see him.
Justin comes into the garage and sees the car, and I love how he just kind of glances at it and then leaves. I guess they're letting us know that he saw it, but I just love how Justin doesn't even really care. He's like, whatever.
No, you're not leaving this house. I heard what happened at school, Justin, yesterday. Your principal called. So now you're flaunting yourself in front of everyone?
I was not flaunting myself, Dad.
He wasn't flaunting himself at all. Quite the opposite.
Besides, Chris Hobbs is the one who started it.
You know what? I don't care who started it.
Really? Really, Craig? You would just like your son not to defend himself? Is that what you want here?
We're not going back there.
What?
We're sending him away to school. It's time you learn some discipline. How to be a man.
I know all about discipline. And you should see me take it like a man.
Craig!
It's all right, Mom. It didn't hurt.
Justin is really baiting his dad here, just like he was earlier.
He wore a condom. I put it on him myself.
But that's no excuse. I mean, that's no excuse to hit your kid.
If you want to hit me, go right ahead. Only I'm not going to cry like some little faggot. And if you want to send me away, that's all right, too. Because I bet more butt-fucking goes on in boarding school than in the back room of Babylon. But whatever you do, it's not going to matter. Because I'll still be your queer son.
Jennifer just looks really exasperated with Craig. Okay, so I love what Justin says about boarding school. And yeah, I always wonder about that, like this specifically. Like, to try to get him to not be gay, he's gonna send him to boarding school where he will literally be surrounded by only boys. I don't understand the logic here. I guess he just mainly wants to get him away from Brian, but this is a great moment for Justin. We see him really standing up to his father, saying that no matter what he does, it isn't going to change who he is. We know that he desperately didn't want his father to find out.
You can tell me. I promise you I won't tell your father.
The thing he's the most afraid of, even more than his dad finding out and beating the shit out of him.
And now he has, and his worst fears have come true. And yet he's still so strong in front of him, and he is who he is. I love that he's not scared of him at all.
Have some tea.
It's too hot.
Here, put this ice bag on your head.
That's too cold.
What are you, Goldilocks?
I see Justin's there too, so basically the whole gang is here, and even Melanie and Lindsay, and I love that they're there too.
What kind of car was it?
I don't know, some silver thing.
Oh my God, it was my dad. I know it. When I saw his car, it was totally smashed.
Now why would your father do something like that?
Because my mom told him everything. He wants to have you arrested and send me away.
Don't be a drama princess.
You better be careful just in case.
Okay, so the group here really doesn't seem to be too concerned about this at all. Melanie wasn't, and no one else was either. Lindsay was the only one who seemed a little bit wary about this, but I feel like they should all be very concerned. Justin saw that his dad's car was smashed, and it was the same color car that Brian saw, and you know, his dad just found everything out and hates Brian. They seem like they don't think that it was Craig, or that even if it was, they don't really care. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't know how you could listen to what Justin said and be like, oh yeah, it's not possible.
It's party time.
So maybe part of, you know, why Brian did this, you know, started party time and pulled Justin up, was to try and make Justin feel better and to take his mind off of it and to kind of not have him worry about it, or because he looked like he maybe could have started to spin out there for a little bit, so maybe that's, you know, part of it. And it works. He pulls him in immediately to dance, and it's a really great distraction. Everyone else is kind of dancing and partying too, and I love it. I love to see the gang having fun together. I love that Melanie and Lindsay are there. And at one point it looks like Emmett is doing the Running Man. Michael and David walk in and they see the party.
Hey guys, join the party.
I thought you were really hurt.
I am.
Mel and Lindsay look kind of shocked.
Michael insisted we come right back.
I told you not to.
I know, but...
He did tell him not to.
Don't go after him, Mikey. Don't ever go after anyone.
I think Brian lives by that. I mean, he lives by many things, but I think that's one of them. People aren't worth it. Don't go after them. Don't make less of yourself by going after them. But he's gone after Justin. 102 when he went outside. In 103 when he breaks up that three-way dance. In 104 when he shows up at Debbie's house to get Justin and ends up being blown by him in Michael's room. In 106 when he goes to the art show and puts his arms around him. I don't know, it just seems like Brian's been going after someone lately. Melanie goes out to see David, and this is their second one-on-one conversation. The last one was in 106 at the art show.
I know what it's like, his manipulations.
You know, I should just turn, walk away, and never come back.
Well, that's one option. Unless, of course, you think Michael's worth fighting for, which is what you're gonna have to do.
Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, I like doing pro bono work. Reminds me I have a heart.
What is it with Brian Kinney? I mean, sure, he's good looking, but a lot of guys are good looking, and he's got his fucking charm, but we all have that when we want it. But what is it with him?
I don't know. Lindsay says it's that he'll do anything, say anything, fuck anything. No excuses, no apologies, no regrets.
Brian's favorite motto that is printed on mugs and bags everywhere. Great words to live by, in theory. I mean, I'd love to live like that, but I feel like I live by the exact opposite of that. I mean, I need another Queer as Folk embroidery. I feel like I should just embroider that.
In other words, he doesn't give a shit.
Because you're a heartless shit?
I think he does give a shit, though. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. You can live how you want, do whatever you want without apologizing for it. But that doesn't also mean that you don't care about anything or anyone. And then David leaves, and now we're at Babylon. So Brian does some drugs, and let me tell you, that does not seem like a good idea for someone with a concussion. David comes into Babylon, and he takes a hit off the drugs. He asks Brian to dance. David's dancing out there.
Man, David looks hot.
You don't dance half-ass.
I dance damn good.
I mean, does he? He is giving his all. I mean, not that, you know, Brian's a fantastic dancer either, but...
You know, for a guy that was on death's doorstep, you made a remarkable recovery.
Okay, so but Brian didn't say that at all. Brian never made it seem like to Michael that he was on death's doorstep. He said minor head wound and concussion. And he said that he was fine. He in no way said that he was on death's doorstep. That came from Michael, not Brian. I mean, obviously David doesn't know that, but I'm just saying Michael made it seem like to David like Brian was about to die, probably so that he could be like, I have to go. My best friend is dying, David.
That's because you're all that matters to him. You're his world, his life. Everything he thinks about, everything he dreams of, everything he knows.
He's my best friend since we were 14.
And I love when Brian says that. You know, they were best friends since he was 14. He kind of drops his act here, and he seems genuinely confused. He's like, he's been my best friend since we were 14. What do you...
16 years of waiting. He's been waiting so long, he actually thinks he's happy. But you and I both know that he's never gonna get what he really wants, is he?
And what is that, Doc?
For you to fuck him.
I love that David just says it, like he just says it.
And don't tell me you don't know it. And you love knowing it, don't you?
Oh yes, call him out on it, Dr. David. No one else is. I mean, Melanie did call this out, but not to Brian's face. Like, no one's calling this out to Brian's face. Although Lindsay kind of did. Brian is totally aware of how Michael feels for him. And I'm sure that he loves the idea of it, too, that Michael always wants him.
You've been around for, what, a week? Think you know him? You don't.
I'd like to. But I never will, as long as you're around. Maybe I should just disappear. And you'd probably like that. And he probably wouldn't think twice about it. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to disappear. Because I want him. Even more than you don't want me to have him. So if you're really his best friend, give him a chance to be happy. To have a life. His own life. Let him go.
First things first, I love this moment. I might get some hate for saying this, but I love this moment. I love this speech. Honestly, one of my favorite moments in the series. Again, please don't throw things at me, but I love it so much. You really feel it. Okay, now my opinion on Dr. David changes in a little bit. It's going to change pretty soon, but at this point in time, this specific moment, it's fantastic. I admire what he's doing here. The way that he says everything is really good and, you know, makes me believe him and have sympathy for him and even makes me feel a little bit proud of him. And he's completely right. Not only will he never get to know Michael with Brian around, around, but no one else will either. Because Michael is so hung up on him and Brian just won't let him forget it. Constantly keeps teasing him with the possibility. And honestly, if David did disappear right now, I don't think Michael would think twice about it. He'd move on to the next, he'd go back to tricking. Maybe he'd be, for a while, he'd be like, oh, dating's not for me, which would make Brian really happy. I mean, he thought that David left before, like when David left the loft, as far as Michael knew, David was gone. And Michael seemed pretty content and happy even, dancing and doing drugs with Brian at Babylon. But David isn't going to disappear. He likes Michael and wants him and wants a life with him. And I think that he does want Michael more than Brian doesn't want him to have him. He's committed to this already, and so committed that here he is challenging Brian, saying he's not going to back down, he's going to fight for him because he really likes him. And in this moment, I really do believe that David loves Michael, as he, kind of mentioned earlier. I believe that he really cares about him, and I respect him so much here, and I love this scene so much. It's so tense and so fantastic. And then this part right here.
Give him a chance to be happy, to have a life. His own life.
Michael can never be completely or totally happy because he's never going to get the one thing that he wants more than anything else. And he doesn't even have his own life right now. He's kind of just living and sharing Brian's and following him. He does what Brian does, he follows him around, cares about Brian's opinion on everything so much.
And why do you give a fuck what I think? I've been saying that for years.
And Brian should let him go. I mean, if he's not gonna get with him, he should let him go. Let him live his own life on his own terms, kind of kill the possibility of the two of them for good. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it's what's best for Michael at this point in time. Maybe he would be perfectly content living life the way he is right now, following Brian around, but he could be happier. He could be so much happier and so much fulfilled in his life. Unless Brian gives him the chance to do that, it's never gonna happen. So David and Brian are having a standoff on the dance floor over Michael. Neither of them are flinching. There are two very dominant personalities here, and it's like, who's gonna win? And it ends on that. This moment is also kind of like, let's let the adults talk now. They both acknowledge they know what's going on here, even if Mikey doesn't. He's kind of oblivious, or at least ignores it. I like this. Dr. David seems to really care about Michael, and he's gonna fight for him. And does Brian respect this? I think he does. I think Brian respects what David is doing here, and that's what David was trying to accomplish by going to Brian's turf. This is what Michael really needed at this point to break free of Brian's hold, kind of stopping his entourage and his audience, like we've, seen mentioned in this episode a couple times. Okay, so I love this episode. I'm sure that surprises absolutely no one. Like all of them. The title of the episode, Smells Like Codependence. This is mainly about the Brian and Michael relationship. Michael is very dependent on Brian, and I think it goes the other way too, although it may not seem like it at times. Brian wants Michael to always be there with him or for him, and Michael is certainly more than happy to oblige. There's also a theme of boyfriends in this episode. Michael and David, Justin and Brian, even though they both don't do boyfriends. I love the Justin stuff in this episode. We finally meet Justin's father, and he is the worst. I love that we got to see Justin stand up to his father, though, and stand firm in who he is. Also, that fight between Justin and Chris Hobbs at school. You go, Justin. Lots of development between David and Michael. They seem to be moving very, very fast. David has decided to fight for Michael, and as I went on and on about, I love that scene at the end. I love some of the stuff that we saw between Brian and Justin. Them dancing at the loft was great and so cute. I loved having the whole group at the loft, and they're all having a good time. It's a really solid episode that sets up some stuff to come. Michael and Justin are both caught up in Brian. They both want to be with him. Justin is openly honest about it, and I love that about Justin. He's just open about everything. He says he wants to be with Brian more than anything. Obviously, he doesn't say this in front of Brian. I mean, I think he's basically said this to Brian before, and maybe he realizes that's not the best tactic, so he's learned. And Michael wants to be with Brian more than anything too. He just won't say it. He'll just drop some not so passive-aggressive comments about it.
You're just jealous because somebody finally thinks I'm hot or something. Because he happens to think I'm hot. Some people do.
So that was season 1, episode 7, Smells Like Codependence. Next time is season 1, episode 8, Babylon Boomerang. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. All the things. Thanks for watching.